If they replaced you in 2 weeks and you're still shattered, this is gonna hurt because I'm going to expose exactly how their brain filed you away as finished and why that says everything about them, not your worth. You're still checking your phone, still waking up with that punch in the chest, still replaying every conversation, every look, every tiny moment, wondering, how can they be so fine? Was I really that easy to throw away? Was I ever anything at all? Meanwhile, they're posting stories, smiling in new pictures, texting someone new like you never existed. And it feels personal. It feels like proof that you are forgettable, replaceable, nothing. And the worst part? They're not losing sleep. They're not Googling, why do I still think about my ex? They're not frozen at 3 a.m. wondering if they made a mistake. You are. But here's the brutal truth. Their ability to move on fast is not evidence that you didn't matter. It's evidence of how they handle pain, responsibility, and intimacy. Part 1. They didn't move on fast. They started letting go before you even knew. For a lot of people, the breakup you experienced didn't start the day they said, it's over. For them, it started weeks or months earlier, quietly. They were already pulling away, already shutting off little parts of themselves, already rehearsing life without you in their head. By the time they left, you were getting hit with the full impact for the first time. They had been emotionally packing their bags in secret. So what looks like, wow, they moved on in 2 weeks, is often really, they were detaching while you were still trying to make it work. Your heart is in week 1. Their brain is in week 12. You're grieving in real time. They started grieving when you still thought you were okay. That gap hurts like hell, but it isn't a measure of your value. It's a measure of how long they've been living in a different emotional reality than you. Part 2.
For some people, moving on fast isn't strength, it's a defense mechanism. Some people simply cannot tolerate the weight of guilt, responsibility, or real emotional pain. So instead of sitting with it, they do something else. They outrun it. They jump into distractions, new people, new hobbies, new dramas, new chaos, anything that keeps them from having to look in the mirror and see, I hurt someone who trusted me. I walked away from someone who loved me. I broke something. That new person you see them with, sometimes they're not a soulmate. They're an anesthetic, a distraction from the mess they made. When someone has never learned how to sit with shame, regret, or grief, they don't process you, they file you. Their brain goes, this is painful. This makes me feel like the bad guy. I can't hold this, so I'll rewrite the story. And in that story, you become too needy, too emotional, not a good fit, just not right for me. It's easier to downgrade you in their mind than to upgrade their own emotional maturity. That's not love. That's self-protection dressed up as indifference. Part 3. To move on like you were nothing, they have to turn you into an object. When someone doesn't know how to handle depth, they turn people into roles. You were my distraction. You were my comfort. You were my ego boost. You were my safety net. And when that role feels complete or inconvenient or too confronting, they don't process it, they swap it. Not because you had no depth, but because they never allowed themselves to fully see it. They didn't move on from the real you, they moved on from the version of you they kept in their head, the version they could pick up and drop when convenient. And that version, it was always in their control. You never stood a chance. You feel shattered because you bonded deeply. They look fine because they never let themselves go to that depth in the first place. You loved with your nervous system. They loved with their habits. Of course it hurts more for you. You were actually there. Part 4. What they're moving on really triggers inside you. When someone moves on like you were nothing, it doesn't just hurt in the present, it wakes up old wounds. That voice in your head that says, I'm not enough. I'm easy to leave. People always choose someone else over me.
Their disappearing act becomes proof for every fear you've ever had about yourself. But here's where the psychology flips. The intensity of your pain doesn't mean they were your soulmate. It often means they touched a much older bruise. Your nervous system is screaming not just because they left, but because their behavior echoes every moment in your life where you felt ignored, replaced, unchosen. You're not just grieving them, you're grieving all of the versions of you who never felt like they were enough to make someone stay. That's why it feels so big. That's why it feels like your whole world has collapsed, even if the relationship wasn't perfect. Part 5. What their behavior actually says about you. Let's be brutally clear. If someone can treat you like you never mattered, that doesn't expose your lack of worth. It exposes their lack of capacity. It shows how little they can tolerate discomfort, how quickly they need to run from their own feelings, how unwilling they are to face themselves honestly. You didn't lose someone who knew your value. You lost someone who didn't even know their own, and that doesn't make the pain less real, but it does change the meaning of it. You are not begging to be enough for them. You are grieving that you gave a priceless part of yourself to someone who treated it as disposable. So yes, they might move on like you were nothing. They might look happy, unbothered, already on to the next chapter. But that doesn't mean you were nothing. It means they are living on emotional fast forward, skipping every scene where they'd have to sit with what they've done. Meanwhile, you're here, feeling it, hurting, healing. And as brutal as it is, that's where real growth happens, in the heart that refuses to go numb just to look okay. You were not too much. You were not nothing. You were everything they were not prepared to handle. One day, you'll look back on this version of yourself, the one who cried over someone who couldn't see you, and you'll feel something you can't imagine right now. Relief. The moment you stop asking, why wasn't I enough for them? And start asking, why was I willing to shrink for someone emotionally this small? That's when you stop breaking and start getting your power back.